I've been intending to get out. To have this and never read it, I've been intending to read the abstract. I bet some of that's on there.
Sure.
And that's done.
You've got better things to do.
Yes, what?
Well, I mean, you raised a bunch of kids in this
Yes,
house.
I raised a bunch of kids, as I told the kids. I had 4 children, and they bring 4 home with them from school. Well, we only had the 2 little bedrooms.
Everybody had a buddy.
Everybody had a buddy, and here they come, and I think, where am I going to put these kids? And one night, Linda Morris came home with Debbie, and I said, Debbie, you cannot, Linda can't stay. Well, there's nowhere to put you kids. The house is full of the boys, and Linda's already got company. She said, we can sleep under the table. They slept under the kitchen table with a pillow and a quilt. So ball game nights, we got them.
Yeah. The country kids would stay in Fairgrove rather than go home.
So they could go to the ball games. And we lived out in Lindsay 8 years before we moved here.
Okay.
Well, we rented it. When he come home from service, you couldn't find a house to rent because all the boys were coming home.
Yeah.
Well, we just rented every old house, and I'll tell you that we just be cold. We had our babies, and so Jack finally, when Mike was born, we bought the garage, and he built the rooms in the back of the garage,
Yeah.
and we lived there 2 years, and his mother died, and Glenn wanted us to move to the farm, and Jack said, "Well, I think that'd be good for the kids, the age they were getting," and we moved to the farm 8 years. So the kids were raised down there when they were little.
And before he bought the garage, I know at some time he was working in Springfield for a trailer company.
For a Trailmobile. He went
Trailmobile.
to the GI.
Was that right after he, okay,
He went to the GI school, you know, and
learned to be a,
learned to weld. And then he worked for Trailmobile. They got him the job from Central High Schools where they all went to school to weld. And,
but eventually he got the garage. Now, at some time or another, he told me that it used to be an automobile dealership down here.
and then they stored, when we bought it, they stored school buses in it
Okay.
when he bought it.
That's the school buses that Clyde Yandel built?
Yeah, no, that, I don't think, so. Well, he could have, but I don't think so. No, the ones he built, Benny Smith drove one of them. That's another story I'll tell.
Go ahead.
To go to ball games is during the war, nobody had gasoline. So they didn't take the buses very often. They'd take them some, but because the buses were old, some of the older. And Fat Huff, of course, on the farm, he had gasoline. Well, he had an old stock truck with a tarp over it. He put benches in there for us all to go to a ball game. Cold, it was snowing. Well, Doyle and I thought we had, well, Doyle played. He thought we had to go to the ball game. Dad said, I cannot take it. It was just, the wind was blowing. He said, I cannot let you kids have the car because if it won't start, I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you just want to go to the ball game, you can walk. We did. I thought I would freeze to death. We walked across Ray Thomas's, down to, we come through there.
Yeah.
Oh, I never was cold my whole life. Well, we went to the ball game, and all day in the ball game, I was thinking, oh, Doyle, we gotta walk home. And I said, I'll always love junior life.
He gave
He
you
was
that.
there, and he said, you kids are not walking home. He took us home. But anyway, to tell about riding in that truck, I tell you, that old tarp went this way. We were already froze time ago. But that's how we went to ball games for a time or two, was in that.
How about going and coming from school? Where you had to have a bus ride?
We had a bus, Benny Smith
Okay.
drove the bus. We had. And we thought that's wonderful because at Avon we had to walk about 2 miles to high school.
Mm.
And of course, grade school, we walked 2 miles the other way. And then, of course, when Doyle graduated in the 8th grade, I had to go by myself, and he had to go by himself. He went one way, and I went the other way.
Let's talk about, you had kids when you moved here. You have all of them? You just had 2?
Had 4.
4 when you moved here.
Yeah, but see, we
moved here.
We lived at the garage. I had all the kids.
They were all born.
They were all born. Debbie was born when we lived at the garage. Mike was born down here, Troy Adams' house.
Okay.
And so, no, we had 3 kids in high school and 1 in the 8th grade.
And you raised them on Main Street in Fairgrove,
Main
Missouri.
Street in
Main
Fairgrove.
Street was pretty pretty active.
Very
isn't it?
calm. They could walk any time of day or night. You could walk all over Fairgrove and not worry a thing about the kids. Nothing. Well, that changed.
I know they got to, we moved here in '74 and they were racing around on the square. The kids hung out on the square and
Yeah.
they'd race up and down this hill.
This is the one that I worried about.
Yeah.
That's when Butch and all them were running around.
Don't name too many people.
Don't care, I'd tell him now, I wonder he's alive today. And they'd put one on each end and watching for the cops and watching, you know.
Oh, really?
And here they'd go.
And Butch and his dad and folks lived right up on the hill.
Yeah, they lived
His
up-
dad had
They lived up about
the
it.
pump store up there,
Now, when we moved here, the bank had straw, hay in it.
just a storage place.
Uh-huh, now they still had the drugstore up here.
Okay.
And of course, we went to movies. I'm sure Reuben all told about the movies up. That was our movie
Over
night.
the Odd Fellows.
Yeah.
What'd your kids do? Let's talk a little bit about what they
Well,
did.
Don and Mike run the paper route when we moved here.
Okay.
They got the paper route, and they run the paper route. And Mike wanted to play basketball. Well, the coach, Don was playing ball too, and he told him he had to be there every night. He couldn't run the paper route. And Don told him, oh, yes, he could, and he quit. That was my Don. He just, you know.
Was he independent?
Oh, yes, like his daddy. But now Mike wanted to play ball, so he quit the paper route, and Don took it over.
And he delivered on bicycle or
Bicycle.
did they have a motor scooter later or something? I know Jack had motorcycles at a pretty early age, didn't he?
Well, we dated on one.
What kind of motorcycle was that?
Harley Davidson.
Back in the '40s. And you were wild enough to hang on to him and ride on the back
that
of the motorcycle?
motorcycle with him. Mother said one time, I hope when if you kids get married, I just hope you have kids that ride motorcycles. Well, see, they all went to Grand Canyon on a motorcycle. Linda rode one. They all went, except Debbie.
Did you worry a little?
Oh, my stars. And Linda said we were all over the Grand Canyon in an airplane, and I thought, if this thing goes down, Mama hadn't got but one kid left.
Oh, gee.
Which I was sick, hanging my head out, I was just a vomiting. She had never rode an airplane.
Well, Jack had a Minneapolis Moline service down here in
Yeah,
the garage for a
dealership.
while, a dealership. That was during the '60s, I guess.
Yeah, because we lived here when we went after the first one he sold
Maybe early '70s, maybe.
the backhoe that Guido Morse
Okay.
bought a new.
That's the first backhoe in Fairgrove?
He sold it to him, and we went to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and got it. And they got there, and they hadn't painted it yet. We had to wait till they got it painted. Well, we started home, of course. Jack said, well, we had the overhead. Well, that truck they had, the Ford one that's, Glenn's ended up
Glenn
with.
hauled hay with?
no, that Jack had that. And when he let the bucket down, knocked every light off of the clearance lights. Knocked them all just clean. He said, oh, we're gonna be in trouble. We got to go as far as we can go before it gets dark. We drove all night, and I slept on him, and finally I looked over and he was sound asleep, just driving away. I woke up and I stayed awake to keep him awake. But we had to go so far, as he said, because of the clearance lights. He said, they'll stop us, we'll get a ticket, But we got home with it.
When did Jack start delivering mail?
Oh, golly, I don't know whether I'll remember or not.
I don't think he was when we first moved here.
Oh, no, he didn't haul till way later. Because Dad,
Maybe in the '80s.
probably in the 80s, because Dad had the substitute route for David McCroskey.
Okay.
And Dad had to quit his health. And he told David, said, well, Jack, David said, well, I don't know who I'm going to get. He said, well, maybe Jack could take that. And Jack said, well, his legs was bothering him walking that concrete. He said,
Down here in the shop.
see, it was just a part-time route. Got in at noon. And he'd done that 20 years before he just had that route about 6-7 years before he died in the full route.